So that allows us to have wider range of photos to share with our audiences on the LinkedIn post. Kubernetes 10-year celebration, which happened last week by the CNCF, and now this is happening all around the globe, different region and different meetups from CNCF and CNCF affiliated groups. They are doing it. And here we are at Singapore, where we are doing it today. So what has happened in past 10 years? So in 10 years, there has been 88K contributions and 8K contributing companies under CNCF, and they have made more than 314K code commits, 263,000 pull requests, and 3 million plus contribution, which has made that, Kubernetes is Kubernetes Linux, which is over 30 years old, as the highest velocity open source project. Today, we usually, you guys know our format is we keep 3 speakers, have some 30-35 minutes sessions, and then we run a quiz. Today, we have changed the format a bit. So we will have a welcome introduction today, and then we will go on to our speaker, Eng-Hwa, for the session, and we will have some lightning talks. Now, this is where I say thank you, and I would like to call Siva on the stage to continue hosting the event and PPT introduction. Siva, over to you.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Ritesh. Hi, everyone. Good evening once again. Okay, so we have agenda here. Our team, K8SUG from Singapore, and we have other teams across various regions, countries, I can say, locations. And we have Mun Kiat from KodeKloud, who is our main sponsor. And then another topic is LLM 3 on K8s, deploy LLM and build GenAI apps on K8s by Eng-Hwa and Principal Container Solution Architect with AWS. And another topic, lightning talks from, we have few lightning talks from our sponsors from Aqua, F5, Splunk, Type, and Spot, which is by NetApp. Okay, so, and followed by quiz and open discussion and group photo, and followed by Kubernetes celebrating 10 years of innovation. And our mission is, we are very passionate about Kubernetes technologies, and our mission here is to accelerate Kubernetes adoption. We are learning from each other and sharing the best practices. And our global footprint started in Singapore in the month of September 2022, and then followed by April 2023 in Australia, Melbourne City, and then followed by August 2023, Canada, and then followed by March 2024 in the UK, and then followed by, we have upcoming in Sydney, Australia. So we have total 14,700 plus members and 6 groups and 5 countries. So our main sponsors, KodeKloud, AWS, and event sponsors, Aqua, F5, Splunk, Type, and then Spot. Thank you all of your support. And here is our team, Eng-Hwa, who is a founder of our K8SUG group, and Fazir Ritesh, who is our long-term event host organizers, And we have Ramalingam, who is our co-organizer, myself, Siva, and Fatima. We have been contributing for this community group. And we have new volunteers as well, Shivangi and Jignesh. Thank you for joining with us and helping our community. Thank you very much. And here are some upcoming events. UK, which will be in June, yet to decide. And then in 23rd, 27th of June at Canada, at our AWS office again. And 3rd of July in Australia, Melbourne. And 16th, we have one in Singapore as well in Australia. So here are some of global events as well. One in Hong Kong, upcoming in August, and then another one in Salt Lake City in November, and then followed by in Delhi, which will be in December, and then in the following year, 2025, will be April in London City. So there are a few more community events, Telecommunity Day, Secure AI Summit, and Cloud Native Security. And there are various Cube days going to happen in coming months. Okay, so for those who joined today or not yet join in our groups, please scan QR code and join in as a speakers or volunteer or sponsor. We have LinkedIn group and Meetup group. Please scan QR code and join. For those who willing to share your ideas or knowledge, registered as a speakers for our upcoming events, we are welcome. And for those who willing to volunteer, please go ahead and scan as well. Okay, thank you. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Telegram. For those who are not yet, you may go ahead and scan. Thank you. Okay, now I would like invite Mr. Eng to take care of the next presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Siva. I need to share the. No, you're focusing from there.
No, also you yet.
Oh.
You hold on one second.
Right.
All right. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thanks for joining us. And special thanks to our sponsors. And also AWS sponsors. So have you guys seen this photo? Anyone certified in one of the Kubernetes meetings? I know it's right. I have seen it actually. They sent an email to everyone with this photo. If I'm putting back, you actually will see. That's me. Okay. I'm so happy to be here. I'm the first one fully certified on Kubernetes. And I'm the first one to get a blue jacket. In Singapore, I have talked in Singapore shows. So how to get the blue jacket? It's pretty fun. I enjoy wearing the blue jacket everywhere. It's pretty simple. You just need to complete all the 5 Kubernetes certifications. And the list on the screen, you can see there are all the benefits. So we will share this. That's slides with you guys. Yeah. Does anyone want to be a kid? So it was announced in KubeCon Europe in Paris in March. And so far, guess how many kids came globally? Anyone want to take a guess? Surprisingly, it's already like 200 plus. It's almost every week we got like 20 plus people. So I'm going to give you some more information here. And also, you got the chance, your photo will be featured by the CNC.
Connected.
From the blog. Okay, that's me again. So I enjoy it, yeah, I love it. I hope you guys can join me to learn Kubernetes, get certified. So how to get there? And before I talk about that, I want to show you. In the kids ones, you can enjoy, you can have more fun. Look at this. That's in Paris. It was announced the program in Paris. I'm the first one where I go back in. And then I travel everywhere. I take a photo with the fathers. That's the one from our British Airways. And then what's next? That's the one I think from our homes. I love it. And when I wear the kids from a blue jacket, when I ask the fathers to take a photo, they never reject me. Okay, another one. Singapore, you guys recognize the Singapore icon. One of the best one, yeah, the gold the cat. And yesterday was I was on the I said, yeah, so I just want to tell you guys, being a kid, really have more fun, really enjoy your life. So I mentioned earlier in Singapore, actually, we already have 3 kids from us. Guess the point, the first one in Singapore. No, you got it wrong. I tell you what, because I'm claiming the #1 global, okay? That's what you got it wrong. The first one in Singapore, actually, that's a second time. So the reason I make it him the #1 in Singapore, because let's say actually he took another #1 spot, #1 in Asia. Okay? I think it's also #1 in Singapore. So the thing is the same also here. I'm going to invite him to just give a very quick experience share. How to become a Q-streamer? What's the loading platform? What tools is using? So Stan, welcome. Let's give him a round of applause.
So I thought that I'm still waiting for my blue jacket, so that's why I have not been taking photos with pilots. All right, but yeah, so it is I think Kubernetes in general, where it's a pretty fun factor. I think there's a lot of changes, huge community, all of there. And one of the key platforms that I really use to learn is none other than KodeKloud, to be very frank. Right, so I think most of us all over here, we all know KodeKloud, right? That KodeKloud thing over here, right? So we're using it to learn. I think start off GKE, right? For a start, right? GKE is a good one. Start off by using KodeKloud, and of course, when you sign up for the certification, there's going to be this thing called the Cheo.sh. Alright, so that's really Cheo platform. Pretty hard, but you can control that, you can control the exam. So that's something that's really good, a good resource, right, for you to actually learn. And of course, alright, in CNCF, we actually do have a Slack channel as well. Right, so the Slack channel is something that you can really, go on, ask questions. Right, there's a lot of people there to help you. Right, and of course, one of the key reasons why, right, I actually find it fun when I deal with, when I play around with Kubernetes, is also because Aqua Security is like best practice, Kubernetes as well. So that's one of the reasons why, I actually have a lot of fun. And of course, I met Eng-Hwa at the Kubernetes Singapore as well. So actually, I was actually very motivated to get the exam to become a professional after I saw the announcement and posted on LinkedIn. Alright, so immediately I scheduled the exam 2 days later after it was announced, and I got certified 3 days after. Alright, so yeah, that's the story. So we are we're looking forward to have more people on board, and hopefully we can all take a group photo together with a group ahead. Alright. We're trying to
Anyone don't want to be a keystone? I know you guys don't want to raise your hand. So that means everybody wants to be a keystone, right? So I think that I introduce myself. So this is me. So this is normally I introduce myself. I do have like a 4BK LinkedIn and followers. I created a Kubernetes user group, which is super short. And the group was very largest Kubernetes user group, active one. So over 50,000 plus members. I also created a Kubernetes discussion group. I was 9K group of members. I used to include all of my digital values on the one screen. And then my friends told me, stop it. Don't oversell yourself. Don't overshow. So I started to put all of my digital values, include probably, I started counting out the city. So I just put a lot of sentences here. I'm one of the most multi-cloud city companies, even global. So I love AWS, I think 10 times. It's actually not my intention to get into reject. It's a complete surprise. I was trying to get AWS to reject. And then, wow, remember, you need to call exams. That's a lot harder compared to teaching. Only 5. Okay, so I'm just another community builder. I'm an AWS community builder. I play multi-cloud, so I'm also not playing with Google. I feel pretty good. So with that, let me invite Musha to join us. So first of all, thanks Musha to sponsor us a very nice cake. We have seen the cake here. And you'll do it from Stan Hoe. So KodeKloud is the best learning platform for Kubernetes. The first one, when I did the GKE, I used some other platform. It took me quite a lot of time. It's not that effective that helped me. From my second one, I did the GKE. I used KodeKloud platform, and it's a lot of use. That's the best learning when practicing the platform. Let me hand it to Musha. They just introduced something called Future of Learning Paths. Thanks.
So first of all, a big round of applause to this guy here, because this guy's passion for just going around the world, making these events happen, and inviting people is not easy. It's not an easy task. You gotta find the venue, you gotta find sponsors, you gotta send out invites, set up comp and whatever that is, right? On speakers. So big round of applause guys for this. So yeah, as probably some of you know, we are a Kubernetes platform, been around for over 5 years. On our platform, we have over many students, and we've been continuously creating more learning experiences on the platform, be courses or hands-on labs, hands-on experiences. So Kubernetes have been our core. Kubernetes is what got us going, and we can that really integrated part of the Kubernetes the best case. Thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate everyone, each one of you for being here. And please stay to the end because we're gonna have a really nice birthday song and cake cutting ceremony at the end. So please do stay. And apart from that, I think if you go to the platform, you'll see a lot of new learning paths that we released, which is KodeKloud astronaut program. So all the path certifications, we have a kind of a detailed learning path that will help people from one to the other. I think the latest one, which is the security KCSA, is in production and will be available end of this month. But yeah, I don't want to take too much of your time. Thank you so much, and looking forward to the great talks that are gonna come up next.
So we got the loaning stuff, right? So loaning platform, let's do the KodeKloud. What are the examples? How much each one does it take? You guys know how much is it? $395. That's way too expensive. So I managed to talk to someone from this foundation. So very cheap. When I was doing the Kubernetes certification, there was no huge discount at 4%. I'm lucky, I want to get 25% off. So we managed to get a 4 year. If you never did any Kubernetes certifications, I highly recommend the Q notes. With this code here, you can save like 40.5%. So for all 5 Kubernetes exams. If you already did the few, you just miss one, maybe KC email or KC step. You can do the 40%. Kubernetes 10 years. What about the loan? So which is very nice to support our community. So every one of our meetup, he already offered us 6 months free access for our winners. We will do the wheel of the names shortly. So today is a special day. We're celebrating Kubernetes 10 years. So we're giving, I think we're giving 6, right? 6 free KodeKloud access. Some people we're not able to give everybody free access. But what's good is we give 47% of discount. So all of these are special only for our Kubernetes user group members. Feel free to text, screenshot, feel free to share with your friends. But my only ask is, if you guys can give a shout to us, okay? As a K8SUG or hashtag. That's all I want to talk about. So with that, I think Eng-Hwa, he is ready. So we're very happy to have Eng-Hwa to talk to us about the AI stuff. So Llama 3 on Kubernetes, how to deploy and build GenAI apps on Kubernetes. I'll let him to introduce himself. Let's give him a round of applause. So while he's setting up, for those of you who never didn't know, he is one of the principal container strategies architect at Amazon. I believe you support the ASEAN region, right?
Yes. Sorry, let me share.
They're ready yet?
Can someone check the Zoom, whether they can see? The room, they can see, right?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. Can you all see? Because I can't see. All good?
No.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think it's ready.
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
Thanks.
So welcome to AWS. Exciting to celebrate Kubernetes 10 years old. I think with GenAI, next 10 years will be even more exciting. So my name is Eng-Hwa. I am the Principal Solution Architect for Container Services in AWS, and I cover the Southeast Asia market. Today, I want to focus on talking about the open source way of running a large language model on Kubernetes, right? And the one I chosen is actually from Meta, previously Facebook. They have a model called Llama 3. So for those, I think most of you already have encountered some form of large language model or ChatGPT, right? Last night, if you watched Apple WWDC, they redefined AI as Apple intelligence, right? And large language model by itself is a deep learning model, but what's interesting is I always tell people it's an autocomplete model where you put in words and they auto-complete for you. And they have a lot of use cases, right? Like helping you rewrite your email, help you plan a trip. You can also use it to summarize articles or use it to search through your documents. And in the large language model that we are so accustomed to is actually when we first introduced to it, maybe through ChatGPT, and GPT right now has GPT-4, right? And in AWS also, we have Anthropic, we have Claude and various models. But there is also open source model or open weight model that is being hosted typically in Hugging Face, which I'll show you later. And there's a lot of models. And one of those that I'm going to introduce you is from Meta, Llama 2 and Llama 3, right? This year they launched Llama 3. And of course, there are others like Mistral and other cloud vendors like Alibaba. So you can actually use large language model inferencing through this cloud vendor like OpenAI, Azure, or AWS, our Bedrock services. But there's also use cases where customers want to host it on premises across multiple environments, right? And one of the reasons could be they have various regulation or compliance reasons, and they have to host their large language model for their use case. Another most likely reason that we've seen some is they want to do a hybrid ML ops, or what we call large language model ops across different environments. Cases would be like, enterprise who wants to do their private data training on-prem, but then they build their inferencing and their GenAI apps in the cloud. And they might do it in various environments, and they want to have a common platform. And we are observing that Kubernetes is a good platform that can allow you to host the large language model itself and the application across multiple environments. Finally, we are also observing the models I just mentioned, right? Not just that we just previously mentioned, there are many more models coming up. And with models, I'll get a bit more details later. Models are getting smaller, but also more capable, right? And this means that it's actually easier to host now, with even if you're GPU poor, right? In the past, we might need to have a big and very expensive GPU, or you might need to have a cluster of them. Now models are smaller. You can actually host it with less GPU resource. And in fact, last night, I think Apple even announced with the phone, you can host quite a powerful 3 billion parameters model, right? And with this customer, we were doing more fine tuning for very niche and specific tasks. And these models will be very targeted to their use case. And with all this means that you might have customers shopping models and building it for their use cases. So for whatever is the reason, that's not the agenda today. The agenda today is to dive deep into it and to unravel what's behind the scene, right? And how can you actually host this on Kubernetes, right? How do you actually do a large language model hosting for inferencing? And then how do you build some use cases of it? So we'll start with a white paper from Run AI, which is actually, I think, acquired recently by NVIDIA. I'm not sure any NVIDIA folks around. So there is this architectural component of inferencing model, the engine and the server. Right? The engine itself will take care of the actual work of hosting the models and providing that input and output token generation. The server will take on more mundane work like orchestrating the requests, queuing, metrics throughput, and using those for scaling. Right? So this is a classical. You can think of it as a deployment in your Kubernetes as a stateless and server, right? So an analogy I want to draw to will be something like you're hosting a web server, right? And they have maybe different engine, and they by nature is stateless, where the request will come in, right? On the left application, we call inferencing. So when I tell a large language model, say, how are, then he will continue you, and then maybe a question mark, or they continue a sentence. This whole process is called inferencing through a large language model. And here on the left, the application could be your web chat, right? Like the ChatGPT, or it could be an application you will write that use the large language model that will use that inferencing engine to generate the output token. And below that, you need hardware, right? So today, hosting large language model, typically you require GPU, right? But there are also trends where they are alternative to GPU, like chips that's made by cloud vendor, like Google TPU, AWS Inferential. And for certain use cases, you can actually optimize optimize the large language model to run on CPU also. So it doesn't mean that if you are GPU poor, you can't run this, right? So with engine and server, just like in the web world, right, there are a lot of open source options, right? As engine itself, right, these are the jobs that they take care, right? Model specific optimization, batching support, memory optimization. And on the right-hand side, you see some of the open source project. VRM is one of the most popular one, and which will be what I'm talking about. But Hugging Face themselves have also one called text generation inference. And NVIDIA, of course, have Tensor RT-LLM. As for server, as some vendors like Hugging Face actually have both the engine and server as one open source project. So it both acts as an engine and a server. So TGI or text generation in the inference actually both a server and engine. But for server, there's also other software like Anyscale, Ray or Rayserve that provides this mechanism to host engine like VRM. And of course, NVIDIA is famous for their Triton inferencing server. And if you watch Jensen Huang's keynote recently, both in Taiwan or in US, you have noticed that he mentioned NIMs, right? He talked about NIMs as the future of the inferencing microservices. They can do all kind of chatbot agents, customer service, document exploration or whatever, right? So NVIDIA NIM is actually based on an Triton inferencing server. It's a prepackaged solution rather than you build yourself. And the underlying on NIM, how they deploy all around the world, whether on-prem or on cloud, is through Kubernetes, right? If you read through the NIM's reference architecture, it's all containers in Kubernetes all the way down. So how to size up for this, right? How to consider, like, if you want to do a inferencing server setup, what are the consideration? One of the things is the parameter size of your large language model. Right, the bigger the parameter, of course, you can think of it as a more intelligent brain. Maybe it'll give you more scene or better output, right, or the result. Smaller model may be less so. So it's measured by the number of parameters. And typical small models, we're talking about 8 to 14 billion parameters, right? And bigger one will be 70 billion. And those that's hosted by, let's say, Bedrock or OpenAI, they are in the trillions of parameters. So you might need a lot of GPU. A small model like Llama 3, you can easily get away with a GPU with 24 gig, some kind of maybe game machine NVIDIA chip will do. The other thing is context size windows, right? So as input token, we're basically asking the LLM and then giving output. The more context you provide, it will give you a richer outcome, right? And this depends on the context size. So all models have a preset context size, and this itself will require memory. So nowadays, like I think Google Gemini has a 1 million context size. You can literally throw a novel into Google Gemini LM, and then you can actually ask about the novel itself. That is the context size dependency. Smaller models like the one I'm going to show you today, maybe Llama 3 is 8,000 tokens. So you can't throw a whole volume of the history of America inside and then ask questions, right? So that itself, the size of the context would also determine how much memory you have, you need. And the next thing is models are not small in terms of storage, right? They could come from anything 8 gigabyte to hundreds of gigabyte. And you have to think about how to store this, right? You can't actually attach that to your top and then have your container the size of hundreds of gig. It will not launch quick, right? So where do you want to store it? Whether it's a shared storage or object storage. And with all this consideration, you want to evaluate your inferencing, how much it costs you, right? Whether it's worth doing it, what's the performance in terms of requests per second for your application. Right, so this is what we're going to do in the demo today. Below, we have a Kubernetes cluster autoscale using Carpenter. Right, AWS actually donated Carpenter autoscaler to CNCF. I believe Azure now also use Carpenter, but they call it a different name. I can't remember, is it called Node Group or Node Pool? Essentially, I use Carpenter because I want to scale the GPU when I need it. So when I don't need it, it will scale down or consolidate for me, so I don't waste my cloud resource, right? And here I'll be using the G5 EC2 instance with the NVIDIA A10G GPU. It has 24 gig per GPU, right? It's one GPU is enough for the Llama 3 8 billion parameter model. And on top, and next to the Llama version 3, I have the open source VRM engine, right? It will host my Llama model, and it will then provide an endpoint where I will run it through a load balancer. And this is basically the whole inferencing setup inside Kubernetes. You can auto scale LLM is a stateless container, right? You can add more and it will just consume more GPU. And you can then interact with this through Open AI SDK, not to be confused with OpenAI, the cloud service, but the SDK where is more quite common nowadays, where GenAI or LLM application developer use that as a way to interact with the endpoint. Or we'll start with using curl command to test out, and then see some apps that we can build using LangChain and the SDK. Finally, for those that are not interested in coding, with the proliferation of all this LangChain SDK and GenAI, there's also a slew of open source low-code, no-code platform that you can literally install inside Kubernetes, and you provide a web interface that you can then compose your GenAI application. So for start, let me first show you where I get the model. For the Meta Llama model is actually hosted in Hugging Face. So think of Hugging Face like your container, in your Kubernetes environment, you have a container registry, you have all these container images to download. Hugging Face is a more like repository for all the models that you can download, right? And not just Llama, but there are other models. But take note that for Meta Llama, you need to agree to their community license agreement. So you just can't download without a token. You can sign up with Hugging Face, you get a token, and then you agree to the agreement, and then your account will be able to download this model. Once you have that, you can have the model. Since we're here, I want to show you also other model, right? Let's say Mistral, right? Mistral's model. And for this one, I believe you also need to do the agreement. Let's say we try the Alibaba one. Right, Alibaba also recently launched one, and the community has actually tested that it's actually better than Llama. I have not tested fully yet, but for this one, you don't have to do agreement. You just have to have the account. You can actually download it, right? So the files are pretty huge. Like typical models, 7 or 8 billion parameters. Compressed is about almost 4 gig, right? And this is what's going to be downloaded into your container. So here I have a cluster already set up running, right? In fact, I run 2 models. It is the standard 4 instance EKS cluster at version 1.29. And let me give you a zoom in of what kind of instance we have, right? So I'm using a open source tool. I'm using an open source tool called EKS Node Viewer. It basically shows me what nodes I'm using and how much I'm paying for it, right? The first 2 M5 instances are for my generic application, but the large language model is actually hosted on the GPU instance, the G5 2x large or 24x large. I'm only use 1 GPU, right? Only one A10G is enough for this setup. So how do you set it up? It's pretty simple, right? Knowing that the model is open source, you can actually download it. VLM is open source, you can Docker build yourself, or you can actually use their preview one. I'm using the latest version, VLM 0.43. You'll notice there's a dash OpenAI at the back. What does it mean? It means that the engine is started with OpenAI SDK compatible endpoint, right? So why people do that? Because there's a few engine in open source world, and typical application programmer, when they build an LLM application, they use OpenAI as the default SDK. So now most open source server or engine, they use OpenAI as a similar SDK. That means that developer can just swap up the model, maybe when they're doing prototype with GPT-4, and then they realize they don't need the full power of GPT-4, they want to pay for it, they can swap to Llama 3 hosted on VLM, and there is no SDK change, right? It's the exact same endpoint. I'm requesting for 1 GPU, and there are some VLM settings that I will turn on, right? And most important here is I'm telling VLM that I want to download this model, Llama 3.8 instruct, and it will download from Hugging Face. In production, typically would not do that. You most likely will already cache this model somewhere in S3 or shared file system, so that VLM will find its cache, and then he will not download to speed up your whole startup, right? And if you ever have a larger model, let's say I use the Alibaba 14 billion parameter one, then a single GPU will not be enough. Well, what do you do, right? In some of these EC2 instance, they might have 2 A10G or 4 A10G GPU. You can actually combine 2 GPU to host a larger model. And the way to do that then in VLM is very simple. Just build on a shared memory device, and they will actually take the 2 GPU and host a larger model. Next to front this as the endpoint, I just put on the NLP, or you can use cluster services in Kubernetes, right, to do that. So I actually already deployed to save time. And if you look at my service endpoint, I already have one. So this service is called VLM service. I already have one load balancer at this URL, right? So this is the endpoint, and I could start using a typical curl command to interact with the endpoint. And I will start with this one, right, that I maybe copy here, right? So maybe uncomment this. So I'm going to run this at the command line. So I'm going to call the endpoint, all right? And the OpenAI SDK, compatible SDK is actually this V1 completion, right? There are two common ones. One is called generation, one is chat completion. Then I will just send my request. My request is to show how this complete this sentence. Pineapple pizza is what? And I say you generate maximum 50 tokens, right? And tell me what is the output, right? So here goes. You notice there's no OpenAI key. Like if you use ChatGPT, you put a key inside, right? You in a VLM, you can actually turn on and create a key. For demo purposes, I turn it off, right? So this will hit the endpoint, and then it will generate. Let me scroll up so that you can see the outcome, right? So it basically takes the input token, right? Pineapple pizza is one of the most popular pizza topping in the world. I'm not sure the Italian will agree. It may seem unusual to some, but it's classic. So this basically it creates that output token, right? It forms a sentence, and it isn't limited by me for 50 tokens. So inferencing basically is this interaction, right? You would send in input token, there's output token, and then how to apply this into use cases. First thing you have to notice that this is a stateless affair, right? I asked him pineapple pizza. The next time I asked, he didn't remember what I asked, right? There's no memory, right? So the first app I'm going to show you is actually a chat app, right? And this is quite common, right? So I have a web. I'll show you later the code, right? I have a web interface running on localhost 8080. I can say pineapple with pizza. Is it legit, right? So it's a chat, right? So and then you hit the endpoint exactly like what I just did with the curl, and then you reply, and you notice that's a bit more lengthy, right? You can control that with what we call prompt template. You can command it to say that be concise, be succinct, and be friendly. This you can control that through what we call system prompt. But in all, now you have a chat app that can do back and forth with you, right? So let's say where is Taiwan? You can ask questions, then you can tell him things like he's getting a chatty, right? So I like Apple, and then this, like your ChatGPT, it does have memory, right? So unlike the just stateless curl chat that just I told you, I can ask him that what would it? I asked you just now, right? So we talk about apple or fruits, right? What is my favorite? Right. Okay, so you can go back and forth, and we can talk about whether the food pineapple or pizza or apple, right? The thing is, it is not stateless anymore because there is actually this back and forth communication between me and the chatbot. And that's how LLM programmer do that with their application. In this case, that particular app is actually a web app. I use a open source framework called Chainlink. You can actually go find on GitHub, right? It is similar to Streamlit in a way, right? Allows you to build quick chat app. And one of the most important part here is LangChain. I'm actually using LangChain open source tool to help me build that memory, right? Whatever I was talking, it's stored as a memory. You can then manage this memory as a first in, first out, or you can optimize and you can do a summarization. But the key thing is just like how when we are talking with human being, right? You have a memory, you can start searching in that context, and you remember what you say, right? So inside this chat app, you'll notice that I would need to tell where's endpoint, which is the URL that I just now created, and then you have a system prompt. I can say how the system would interact and how we will respond, and then how to manage this memory through the chat. Now, this piece of code provides a web user interface. I can swap it out. I can use it on GPT-4. Likewise, I can use it on any OpenAI SDK compatible endpoint, right? So what if you don't want to do any coding, right? And I just want to build a GenAI app, right? There is a lot, what we call low code, no code platform. One of it that I want to introduce you is Flowist. Flowist is basically an application that provides you a low code platform that you can deploy in Kubernetes. So I actually launched this inside my Kubernetes cluster. I already have a Flowist container. What it does is it provides this GUI, right? You can think of it as a marketplace for you to get all the apps that's pre-written by someone, but you can actually build your own. And I'm going to show you how simple it is, right? By using a canvas, right? You can actually, I'm conscious of time, right? So I actually preview this. In this canvas, right? You can actually just create elements, right? Remember I was using LangChain to build a chat app. You can actually use all these component, right? And then you start composing your application. This application I'm proposing is actually a RAG app, which is a retrieval augmented generation. I'll explain later what it is. But in here, you actually use a GUI to build out your RAG application in terms of the document chunking, the vector database store, which is an open source tool called Chroma, right? Chroma is an open source vector database. And then most importantly is instead of calling OpenAI, I call my Kubernetes endpoint that's holding the VLM, right? And the particular model that I have. Right, so what am I building here? It's a very regular RAG app, right? There's, I think most nowadays GenAI customers are trying out. So RAG, I have a slide here to explain what is it about. So when I ask that model, hey, about pizza, about China, whatever, there is a knowledge cutoff because it is a static thing, right? It doesn't go into the internet and find information. It's a static thing. You can actually turn off the internet. You can still do inference, right? To enrich this information, to bring in more context, we built this architecture called RAG or retrieval augmentation generation. Basically, taking whatever you have, like your own private data, you actually chunk it, embed it, put it inside a vector store, and then you use your input query, like what is my earnings for this particular company, and then you do a similar research, and you send this to Llama, and Llama will provide you either the summarization or the answer, right? In short, it gives you a more concise or more in context Q&A to your document, right? So for this, you can do exactly like how the Python programmer did, right? You can build this using LangChain yourself, but with Flowist, right? You don't need to, right? The architecture I just talked about on the slide is exactly here, right? The embedding is done or using Hugging Face embedding. I have open source Chroma that I posted on my Kubernetes cluster somewhere here. I have a Chroma database, right? It will store the vector store once I chunk in. And then this is my VLM endpoint. And then I could start chatting with the document. So the document that I feed in is actually the Amazon 2023 annual report, right? So I can ask things like what is Amazon business and what was the operational income in 2023, and able to extract this information, not from the model itself, but from understanding the PDF. So as I know it's very rushed, there's a few concepts, but I hope I would interest you to explore this area of generative AI with Kubernetes, because I believe in the future, more and more a Kubernetes operator platform builder will be building data science platform on top of it. And you look at the amount of open source tools that I just showed you, right? Chroma, LangChain, Flowist. That is just the tip of the iceberg. Within 1 hour, there's no way I can introduce. And a lot of these are very fantastic open source tools with more than 10,000 stars, right? It's growing very fast. You can understand then the amount of interest that they have in the community. In future talk, do let us know whether you want to focus more on multi-model, which is vision rather than text with this LLM, or other chipset on how to run this in Kubernetes, right? If you want to get to how to build that, the code, all these are built as a blueprint. Just scan the QR code or we give you the slide. This is under our data on EKS open source project, where we show all the large language inferencing and also training on EKS or Kubernetes, right? So with that, I want to thank you for the time. And is there any questions? I can maybe take a few questions. No?
So GenAI is obviously the current one, but there's obviously something about large action models, right? So when do you think that large action models will start being rolled out?
I have not actually tested it. Yeah, it's in my to-do list. So good question, right? I have no idea what's that. Right now I'm doing only multi-model. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think GenAI is good, but basically that is put out and what you act upon it, because that's the next layer of this. Yeah, so large action model, there are not many large action models anyway. Rapid AI is the only one that I know of.
So you can try this out yourself, even if you know GPU, right? You can actually, so it could be a next talk, right? We could actually do fully all this, what I just mentioned, in a K8 cluster. You know what's a K8 cluster, right? Kubernetes in the Docker, where we run the CPU. It's all possible. It's just the size of the model, and you can actually quantize them or make it smaller, right? So the model that running on GPU is 16 bits. You can make it 4 bit, and you can run your laptop. If you heard about Ollama on your laptop, if you can run Ollama on your laptop, you can build all this on CPU also. No, any more questions? No? Oh, okay.
So, can we run this, on ARM across VARM as well as 664, the two different actions for instruction sets, right?
Yeah.
So does this work on?
So the inferencing itself is right now favor Intel priority. If your GPU is fastest, if not, it's what we call accelerated compute with like TPU from Google or inferential. And then the x86 chip itself, all ARM64 can do, but you have to quantize it to smaller bit. It's not that performance. Yeah, but we do see hybrid architecture whereby that's the thing about Kubernetes is so useful, right? In a cluster, you could have Intel CPU, ARM CPU running the application. If you look at this architecture, right, GenAI is not about just inferencing. You most likely will spend a lot of time, a lot of Python apps, a lot of Java apps, a lot of Java people write against this. In fact, Spring Boot people are now having this additional library called AI library. They can talk to ARM, right? So those who use the IRM and the Intel chip, but the inferencing, then you have to make a choice whether that is the cloud specific accelerator or GPU. And GPU, you have a continuum, right? It could be the very expensive A100 or the A10G or the L4 T4. Yeah.
Question. So what is the tools that you use for training?
Fine tuning.
Yeah, and you train the model itself and you want for a certain. AI acts after the inferencing is done, right?
Yeah.
So for training the model out, more tools of there's some data on that. I don't know.
Well, they are open source. I'm not tested it in the URL that show you. We do have two training architecture. This is actually in that architecture, it actually show you two things: how to do training and fine tuning actually on the Kubernetes cluster, but also another thing is how to do that with another chip called Trainium chip, right? So I think we have one that we just released for Llama 3. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Eng-Hwa. Thank you, Eng-Hwa, for such a wonderful session. Since today it's Kubernetes 10th birthday, we have come up with a different approach this time, wherein after this talk, there would be 4 lightning talks from different open source providers and Kubernetes. But between each talk, there would be, we will spin the wheel, and one lucky winner will get KodeKloud subscription for 6 months and one swag from one of our sponsors. You unmute or you? All right. So I've also added the participants who are online. So even the one who are online, if your name is coming up, so you guys can share your email address with us. Yeah. So the first winner.
Let's see.
Niranjan Kumar. Right. Congratulations, Niranjan.
You want to check the KodeKloud access? You also have an option to check the photo list.
I have one to is daily videos.
Yeah.
All right. So I would like to call on next Stan Hoe from Aqua. So Stan Hoe, as you guys know, he's one of the Cube astronaut, and he would be talking about securing the future of Kubernetes with Aqua Security.
Yeah, myself.
All right, Stan, over to you.
Testing. Can I use that? Is it more used to this? Yes. Yes. Perfect. Perfect. Everyone. Yes, a little bit soft. Yes, a little bit soft. Everyone, once again, this is the solution architect from and maybe just this one. Oh, no. Oh, it's connected to the other one. No problem. Never mind, I'll just stand here. All right. Sorry, guys. Thought I could stand a bit closer with you guys. All right, but yeah, so it's me again. All right, Stan from Aqua Security. All right, so perhaps I'll start off with a little bit about me. All right, so I think I briefly introduced myself. All right, so solution architect from Aqua Security, and primarily I'm a security specialist. All right, so I specialize in cybersecurity. And of course, today I'm also a CUBE astronaut, so one of the first, all right, in Singapore as well as in Asia and globally as well. All right, and one of the things that Yong Kang mentioned, the perks is about having a blue jacket. But in fact, one of my favorite is also the ability to wear a very nice blue cap like that and then collect all these different badges like Pokemon Master. All right. All right. So yeah, so this is about being a CUBE astronaut. All right. But of course, today I'm here, as part of Aqua Security. All right. And of course, apart from Aqua Security, today is all about the 10th anniversary of Kubernetes. All right, so let's take a look at the timeline of how Aqua in fact has actually driven innovation, all right, in Kubernetes over the past 10 years. So let's walk down the memory lane together. All right, and if you can take a look, all right, Kubernetes was actually released, donated 10 years ago in 2014, and we've come a long way. All right, and if we take a look at the things that Aqua has done so far, right, since we were founded in 2015, all right, we have actually released a series of very useful Kubernetes tools that all of you perhaps will have already interacted with. Right, for example, KubeBench, KubeHunter, right, and Trivy as well as Tracy. So perhaps most of you would have heard of KubeBench, right? Because KubeBench is part of the curriculum, be it CKA, right, or CKS, right? It is part of hardening, right, the Kubernetes cluster. All right, so that's KubeBench, and of course Trivy. It is actually a very well-known scanner that you can perhaps use to scan the code, Kubernetes cluster, and container images as well. And Tracy was something that I covered in the previous meetup, right? It is all about detecting threats in your Kubernetes cluster, right, with this thing called eBPF. And of course, along the way, once once we have actually introduced all these useful tools in open source community, Aqua eventually introduced this term called Kubernetes Security Posture Management to the world in the year of 2020. All right, and of course, today KSPM become a household name. Right, you start to hear a lot of people, a lot of vendors using KSPM, and it's all about securing a Kubernetes cluster. And of course, these days you will start to hear not just Kubernetes, you will start to hear a lot of this thing called CNAPP, right, which stands for Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. And this is also something that has been adopted by multiple organizations out there, right, to protect their entire life cycle from end to end. And of course, the previous time I introduced this thing called Tracy, and it's all about, what we do is we actually introduced this thing called Cloud Native Detection and Response, which is all about securing your Kubernetes and your cloud native workloads. We launched a supply chain security module, and then today, this is a household name, KodeKloud Security. All right, so we launched it in 2022, and this in fact has become a household name that you hear out there. Everyone vendor is talking about it. All right, so as you can see, we are actually at the very forefront, right, of securing Kubernetes and your cloud native journey. And of course, today, 2024, I'm here to talk about what is the next thing that we're going to secure. And walking down the memory lane again, right? So today, right, Aqua secured the entire lifecycle from end to end, right? Just like what I actually shared earlier. Right, and of course, we support a variety of different workloads out there. It can be the serverless functions, right? Kubernetes, and today we are hearing a lot of serverless containers as well. But the big question here comes:
right, with the next thing. So what is next for Kubernetes? All right, what is next? Which is the question mark for 2024. And actually, just now, in Eng-Hwa's session, I had a really great, he really went down in the details, right? He went down to talk about, GenAI model, etc. And this is exactly what it's going to be like for the next 10 years or, the next few years. This is going to be the future of Kubernetes, right? You hear about him sharing about NVIDIA's acquisition of this thing called Run AI, right? Which is basically a platform that leverages Kubernetes to, basically host your GenAI applications, right? And this is exactly what is going to be the future for Kubernetes. So let's take a look at GenAI applications, or in fact, LLM-powered applications. Right, if you take a look at, or in fact, one thing about this is I have so much to share. I have 10 minutes only, but Eng-Hwa kind of covered a lot of things for me, which is good. All right, so he mentioned about LangChain. All right, so just now, LangChain is a framework that you use to develop GenAI applications or LM. And out there, a very common ones you see out there, there's ChatGPT, the Gemini. Right, and basically one of the key things that you're going to realize is all of them, end of the day, they are just, you download the model or you select a model, and then basically you write codes around it to basically call, right, to make prompts, right, open chat, like I said, or it can be just, generate, send a token over and then you get a token back, etc. And that's basically what you do. At the end of the day, you're basically wrapping codes around the model, right? For people like us, where we don't have a very powerful machine servers to go and fine tune and create our own models, it's nearly impossible, right? What we do is we take the ready-made model, we fine tune it perhaps, or train it a little bit, or we write codes to basically create an application around it. That's what we do. And if you take a look at what it basically comprises of, right? One of the key things everyone will know, a model, right? It can be downloaded from Hugging Face, right? Basically, you download the Hugging Face CLI, you download the model, or you can be basically using something that is really fresh out there, like a Gemini. You can be using ChatGPT 4, etc. So this is basically what you do. Select a model, write codes around it, right? And when you write codes, there can be code libraries, your custom codes, and of course, end of the day, when you're running you're going to deploy to Kubernetes, there's one thing that and Eng-Hwa actually shared, right, some images that he mentioned earlier on. So there are some out-of-the-box images that he actually mentioned where you can basically select the model that you want to use, the prompt, etc. So that's basically what you do, right? And at the end, with all this thing, there comes security risks, right? Security risks, like there is this thing called OWASP Top 10, right? So OWASP Top 10 is actually the top 10 risks for web applications, right? So for example, SQL injection. That's a very common one that a lot of us will probably know. All right, but when it comes down to LM, Gen AI applications, there's going to be the same thing, right? There's this thing called OWASP Top 10 for Gen AI application. And what it leads to is it leads to things like prompt injection, right? Where people can basically, in a way, there's a simplified term is you can jailbreak it, right? You can actually bypass the security measures to tell it to do malicious things for you, right? For example, manipulate the data, or in fact, tell it to run malicious code on the underlying server container or on node that is running the application, right? And of course, with all that, there's also vulnerabilities because you're using libraries, right, to write your codes, introducing base images, and you have sensitive data as well. For example, your OpenAI key, right? So those are kind of sensitive data that you're exposed to a lot if you don't remove them before you deploy out there. And most importantly, runtime risk, right? Runtime risk, for example, just what I mentioned, prompt injection that can help to lead it to run malicious actions. So this is the future of Kubernetes. So one of the things that Aqua has done is we have launched the industry first KodeKloud, right, security for LLM powered application. So this means that the moment you start to push your code out there, Aqua can actually scan it for OWASP Top 10, right, for risk for LLM, right, for your large language model applications, right? So you can see at the beautiful fireworks over there, right, there's this thing called GenAI risk, right? So that's something that we can do. And we also detect things, the security risk that's associated with the container, right, that is running your application. And of course, lastly, incidents. So just like I mentioned, prompt injection. When something happens, what it does is it will basically be able to detect and block against the malicious actions that attacker will actually do when they infiltrate or when they bypass the security measures in the model or application. And as a result, what you can see is a really beautiful way, right, to secure the entire life cycle of the LLM powered application for end to end. Okay, so this is a very quick lightning talk. That's why it's so fast. There's a lot of more details behind the scene. So if you want to find out more, feel free to scan this. We actually have an entire article written on how you can actually secure your LLM powered application from end to end. And of course, I'm outside as well. Later, there's a booth there. I have some freebies. Me and my teams are here, so feel free to catch up, have a quick talk, all right, quick chat, and yeah, that's all. So thank you so much for your attention. All right.
Thank you very much, Stan. All right, now again, after this talk, we are again going to run the wheel. Lucky winner. All right. So ready? Amruteshwara. Congratulations.
We got another full call out. Congratulations.
Yeah, and these are the slides from Aqua.
Yeah. The cooking is pretty nice. Thank you.
No, unfortunately. All right, now we have Laurent, who is from F5. He is Director of Solution Engineering, if I'm not wrong. And he would be talking on Open Telemetry with NGINX. Laurent, over to you. I'll just put up.
Yep, thank you. So just a little bit about me. In charge of technical aspects for NGINX source impact. So again, my role is really to help you love NGINX. Simply just that. So if you have any issue or things like that, let me know and I'll try to find you answers. While my slides are being displayed. Good. So yeah, let's get started. So the point is really to have Open Telemetry to help you to develop your applications. We mentioned a few things about AI apps earlier. We mentioned a few things about having application performing well, but how to get there and to get something working as we expect and as developer meant to get it out there. To address, I would say, performance and have application running properly, observability is really critical, and therefore it's related to data. How can I see how my application is performing? Where is it wasting time? Where can I accelerate it? All these things are important to get going and to have insights around it. For observability, there are a few things that you need to collect, to analyze in order to know what's going on in your applications, and then to focus on where to put the effort in order to fix the issues. And when you run your application, you have many data and signals that you can capture. The metrics, the traces, the logs are really tools that you can leverage to get, say, some visibility or some insights in your applications. And those two things get you a hold of what monitoring and observability are, in the sense that with those two, you are closer and closer to where the issue or the waste of time in your application is. So therefore, from that point on, you have a shorter time to find out where something is wrong with the application. And if you know where something is wrong with the application, therefore, you can find what to do and how to fix it in terms of performance and troubleshooting the application. So to help developers and to help all, I would say, application infrastructure, there is one project, Open Telemetry, and it's a really interesting solution and project so far for many reasons. Open source, vendor agnostic, and has been there for quite some time. And from a, I would say, contribution perspective, you would see that many important actors are contributing to the platform. And also, as a side note, Open Telemetry is the second most active project of the CNCF today. So that really shows the importance of that project. That also shows how it is more and more critical to developers and how the benefits can definitely be brought to your application and your environment. And just 2-3 years ago, it moved to a maturity level of incubation into CNCF, which gives even more visibility from that point on. So Open Telemetry as a project and as a solutions has many components which are important to know of and to kind of identify. They work all together. You need to have, I would say, specifications. You need to have APIs and SDK to put those resources into the applications. So for instance, you need to have those SDK to integrate those elements in your code so you can report those visibility information into the visualization tools that we could use later to graph or to see your application. The collector will be the one capturing all the data from different components of the application and kind of normalize them, put them in a standard format. So all the tools around that can kind of talk the same language and have the same, I would say, a baseline to give you visibility on your application. And as we're talking about applications and development, sometimes you might have to have custom libraries which are leveraging Open Telemetry specifications, so therefore they can be integrated into your application and workflow. Okay, so there are multiple things to consider and why I would say Open Telemetry is a good solution to implement and consider when you want to start addressing issues with your application, but at least to have visibility in your applications. And that's more and more prevalent today because, again, our applications are all microservices, all distributed. So there is a need to have something, I would say, common across the entire application stack. So at that point, we have something consistent to analyze, interpret, and then get the data out of and make the proper decisions. So the Open Telemetry brings really, I would say, that uniform way of processing all the metrics, loggings, statistics, and tracing from these applications. And therefore, it's really important to have all these tools applying to and complying to that same protocol. So from that point, they could definitely give you, I would say, a consistent view of all those components and therefore give you the right path to the clue in order to fix the issues wherever they could appear in your application. And the other thing from that is when complying to the same format, it's really easy to integrate with other different components or swap components alongside your development cycle or your evolution of your application. Okay, and as I was saying, it is a very interesting project from the point that it is open source. Most of the vendors are contributing to it, and as F5 and NGINX, we have some of the most contributors to the project, and we have also engineers who are behind the latest Open Telemetry Arrow protocol, which really helps transmitting Open Telemetry data in a compressed format, meaning that you could have your application in the cloud and not paying for too much data transit to your visibility platform, for instance. And talking about AI and talking about observability, it's all about data, having the right data and seeing what you could do from those data. And we saw in the application earlier, an input in the application, which is text, when inserting prompt to the application. But it's not only about text. It could be sound, could be images, and we could have a lot of insights and output from those AI applications. But why open telemetry in that context? Telemetry could also be a data consumed by AI application to do things like prediction, to do things like being able to detect or to preempt any errors in the application at some point in time. And that's why, again, open telemetry for IoT platform, for a distributed platform, microservices is really interesting because it gives that consistency in terms of visibility across all the applications. Okay. Open telemetry as an open source project constantly is evolving. And today, I just want to share here the view from F5 and NGINX, where we do support tracing with NGINX mainly, and we do support open telemetry logs and metrics from Big IP VE Next, and Big IP traditional. We gonna support open telemetry metrics soon as well, meaning that you could have the statistic and the metrics from NGINX component all across the line. So meaning, again, having a consistent visibility of your application across the stack. Okay. And with that importance of open telemetry, we definitely wanted to be, I would say, more forefront into that journey of equipping the application and the developers with the right tool. So we made the effort to develop a native code for open telemetry support in NGINX, and it's really brought a lot of benefits compared to the open source module that was available there. So in terms of performance, it really brings value to the application and to the performance of the engine, but it's also very simple in terms of configuration. And as you can see here on the screen, it brings also a something which is interesting, the ratio sampling of the traffic, which also kind of reduces the amount of data that you will report on to spot an issue and to work on this issue specifically. So really give you, I would say, more flexibility to have the right tools in the right place to do whatever you want. And moving closer to the end of the presentation, here you can see two examples of the integration of open telemetry, both in NGINX and F5 Big IP. So again, the whole point here is, as we know, most of the environment are having both F5 and NGINX deployed in the infrastructure. So that's another way to go to our bosses and say, oh, we have an idea and we want to have those tools implemented so we can have, I would say, a consistent visibility and a consistent tooling to troubleshoot and improve the applications. Okay. And when you have those tools in place, that really gives you, I would say, a lot of insights and visibility into your microservices as well. As you can see here, you could definitely filter the services which are maybe failing or giving you a lower SLA in your application, and focus on those and really spot them and work in terms of performance of what's been done. And we see when we talk to our customers, they often ask about visibility, see how the microservices are communicating within each other. Open telemetry really helps into having that visibility. Okay, and this is my last slide, finished. So open telemetry, I would say, is kind of the new print line that you would put in your code when you debug in your code. Every single action you would put a print to test it. Open telemetry really helps you remove that out of your code. Okay, and that's it for me.
Thank you, Laurent. And if anybody of you have any questions, Laurent is here. Okay, so then reach out to him, and Anupama, where is she? There. So you can reach out to any of them. So they would be more than happy to answer your questions. All right, again, spin the wheel. All right, start. Jack V. Do we have Jack? We? All right. Jack V1, Jack V2, 3. We'll move on to another. Stan Hoe. I think where is Stan?
He doesn't need a certificate. Doesn't need a.
All right, so,
Is it okay to give someone else a chance?
yeah, which if you want, so, yeah,
Yeah, I'll give someone else a chance.
all right.
Oh, thank you so much.
Santosh Kumar, I believe Santosh Kumar is online. Yep, Santosh Kumar is online. So, Santosh, can you hear us? Yep. So Santosh, congratulations. You have won KodeKloud subscription for 6 months. Please share your email address one-to-one with us so we can share KodeKloud subscription with you. So for this one, I don't think we would be able to take a photo, but should we give another one or we move on to another round?
No, we keep this.
Huh? Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, Santosh Kumar, so we'll remove him. And we'll move on to our next speaker is Michael Cheo from Splunk. He would be talking about turning K8S data into doing. Nice. Yep. Michael, over to you.
Good. Hi, good evening, everyone. To all those present in the hall, as well as to those online. My name is Michael. I'm a staff engineer from Splunk. Right. I personally, just a quick instructions. I started my career as a programmer and later on become a technical sales and technical consultant. About 5.5 years ago, that's how I started my Kubernetes journey. And I went on the times about just slightly before COVID, right? And I went online. I want to learn Kubernetes, and I went to Udemy, and I spent $20, and I signed up a course, and with this gentleman, Mun Kiat, right? Now that is the best investment I have, right? If you never check out his course, you better do so, right? It's very, very easy to follow. And again, he didn't pay me to say that, but really, so just now when I came in, I was starstruck. Wow, this is kind of hero, right? This is a legend in the Kubernetes world, right? Okay. Now, so as an engineer by profession in engineering, so I wonder, okay, in this lightning talk 10 minutes, what should I say? Only have 10 minutes, right? I couldn't talk too much. Now, Kubernetes start with 8. Maybe I want to talk about 8 things about things. But today is a 10-year anniversary. Maybe should I talk about 10 points, 10 pointers? And I also want to cover some observability. Observability, the platform is O11Y. So should I talk about 8, 10, or 11? So which one should I talk about? Right. Now, okay, as an engineer, see, what? Number 8, the binary is 1000. 10 is about 1010, and ODI is like 1011. Now, what is the common among all these things? I do an AND operator. Okay, quite simple. So okay, I'm going to talk about 8 points. Okay, so very easy. We just don't talk about 8 points. Then I'm going to wrap up my discussion. Now, point number 1. So early on, one of my co-presenter, this is not, we didn't synchronize, right? Now, he mentions like Open Telemetry is the second most active project in CNCF. Right, as you look at here, number 1 is Kubernetes. The second one is Open Telemetry. Now, Splunk, being a commercial company, we are the largest contributor to the Open Telemetry project. Now, this is the last decade, last 10 years, how many contributions we have done. Now, second to us is Microsoft. Okay, we did 1.5 times more than them. And then the last, and then the third, and the rest, we did generally 3 to 4 times more than the rest of people. Now, Splunk as a commercial company, but yet we are fully committed to this open telemetry project. Now, a lot of people talking about observability, talking about people want to lock you into the ecosystem, but it's not true. We want to empower you to embrace open telemetry. Right? So number one. Point number two. Now, Splunk Observability, this is a short form, is an open telemetry native. Right? What does it mean? Because as you know, you want to collect logs, traces, and metrics, right? One of the things is how do you instrument it? You need to some agents. So in the past, a lot of company, a lot of vendor give you agents so that it can allow you to easily bring your data into the ecosystem. But the downside of it is, once you use the agent, you get locked down by them, right? Now, many years ago, we're talking about cloud vendor agnostic. Now, people are also talking about observability agnostic, tools agnostic. Now, Splunk observability is 100% open telemetry native. What does it mean? If today you're using an open source agent, you can directly send to Splunk, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, we want to empower you to do that, right? So what does it mean also? If today you, for whatever reason, you don't like Splunk, you can just change the endpoint and to send to someone else. It works 100%, right? You don't have to reinvent or to re-instrument your applications. Now, that's the second point. Right? The third point. Now, Splunk Observability is 100% full fidelity, right? What does full fidelity mean? Is no sampling. Now, we're talking about observability, talking about traces, metrics, and logs, right? There's a lot of data. Now, once you have a lot of data, what does it lead to? A huge cost, a bill shock. Now, so a lot of my day-to-day job is to help customers to optimize their observability costs, right? Now, one of the things is that Splunk Observability is 100% full fidelity, means we do not want you to do sample. The moment you start to sample, what does it mean? Means you kind of close your eye, keep on blinking your eye, right? Like, what happens if you close your eye and issue happen, right? We do not want you to do that. Now, you can full fidelity 100%, no sampling. In real time, the resolution is down to 1 second. But the best thing is you have full control of your data. Now, what does it mean? Because in our platform, there's something metrics pipeline management to let you know how do you slice the data into the different granularity. Like how do you different parameter, or you want to group them together. Now, the whole idea is no sampling. You can safely bring all the data in, and then in a very cost-friendly way, right? This is the third point. The fourth point, right? There are many ways to bring data in, right? So, I mean, as you know, when I introduce myself, I'm from Splunk. A lot of people come to their mind, oh, Splunk is a logging platform, it's a data, it's the log collections, right? Now, when you want to collect Kubernetes log, right, people using Fluentd, Fluentbit, and etc. Now, all of this is great, right? It's very mature solutions, but nevertheless, you need to install agent, etc., right? Like a sidecar or things. Now, more and more people, they start to build their observability based on open telemetry architecture, right? Now, one of the way on how you can collect all logs is you're using Autel native, which is a power log receiver, right? Now, if you look at this snapshot of the code, right? Through the Helm chart installment, all you need to do is logs engine dot equal to Autel. So what does it mean? By defining this one, we will just help you to ease your GDI, getting data in process, to bring the data into Splunk platform and then create the pipeline for you. I mean, the receiver, the processor, and exporter for you, right? So you don't really have to go and bother about how to configure the rest. Now, all these things is using 100% Autel native, right? Open telemetry native. This is the fourth point, right? The whole idea is to help you to bring the data in as soon as possible so that you can make use of the data. You should not spend too much time on bringing the data, right? Number fifth one, right? There are a lot of ways to do monitoring in Kubernetes, right? We know about instrumentation. We know APM, open tracing, right? So, but one of the way of doing tracing is you need to do code instrumentation, be it auto instrumentation or manual instrumentation. Manual instrumentation basically you need to write the code, add the library, write the code. Auto instrumentation is basically using a wrapper, using SDK, wrap around your application. But nevertheless, you still need to do some changes to your packages and etc. Right? Now, one of the way of doing things is there's another way of doing the network monitoring in Kubernetes using eBPF. Now, eBPF, okay, sometimes you have no access to the code. For example, you use someone's third-party microservices or third-party commercial. commercial over the top software, you cannot instrument their microservices. Now, what can you do? You can use eBPF. Now, again, through a simple few parameter, you just deploy it through a Helm chart. Instantly, you can see a plot, the whole network flow of the microservices into your environment, right? Now, so why this matter? Application talking about higher level intelligence, right? This is network level. Well, who cares about network level? Actually, you should, for example, again, let's say you deploy microservices in different cluster, different availability zone. What happened if the one of the services need to talk to another services in another availability zone in another region? The egress traffic is a lot. Ingress traffic could be a lot as well, right? eBPF and on the chart on the right-hand side, it allows you, the chart on the right-hand side, it allows you to see which microservices is a culprit to generate a lot more traffic, right? Then you can go and pinpoint, I mean, you can find other resolutions, find other way to resolve the whole thing, so right? Now, point number 5, there's a lot of way to monitor. One of the ways is through eBPF. Number 6. Now, one of the things, right? This is one in one of my engagement with my customers. I genuinely surprised the outcome of this. Now, a lot of applications are API driven. In microservices, all API first, right? API first. Now, in API first world, you need API gateway. Now, sometimes you wonder who call those API, and does this API fronting which background, which microservices or which endpoint? Now, what happens is this is one of the big enterprise in Singapore. Now, they use a third-party software, third-party API. Now, we use it's a Java-based API, so we have them to instrument it. Now, literally, this is an API gateway. By instrumenting it, they discover 100 over different endpoints. Means somebody configure 100 different endpoints for this API gateway. Now, again, it could be someone built a project in the past and forgot to clean it up. Now, all the things, right? Now, one of the key takeaways, instrumenting your API gateway could be a very low effort but super high value returns, right? Number 7. Now, one of the things is, as you know, Splunk, we have a Splunk platform, Splunk Enterprise and Splunk Cloud. Observability is another SaaS service. Now, one of the cool things is, right, when you start using Splunk Observability, which on the right, on your left-hand side, the data can bring it over to Splunk Enterprise at zero cost, at zero injections cost. Now, whatever data traces, metrics, logs, you can bring over, and what happens is you can maximize the data value, right? You can code relay, you can do machine learning, etc., right? So one copy of data, you can have multiple usage as well, right? So this is point number 7. Now, this is point number 8. Now, Open Telemetry is open source. Right? So what's Splunk value in all of this? First of all, open source is free to use, but again, it comes at cost, right? So operation cost and maintenance cost as well. Now, through Splunk, we're able to support you, right? And also, the Splunk distributed Open Telemetry agents or connector is support in, work in all Kubernetes flavor, and again, like supportability. And last but not least, right, is the whole flow is designed with you in mind. Now, when you have log, traces, and metrics, it's sometimes very hard to troubleshoot which should I look at it first. Now, look at this chart. This is one of the service map in APM tracing. Now, if let's say you discover one of the problem here, this microservice is a problem, by clicking on here, instantly bottom part, you will link up these microservices. What is the underlying infrastructure, the node, the port that's supporting these microservices? Now, you can easily click on here and then it directly bring you to the problematic one, right? At the same time, you click on here, there's another thing, you can see the log bracket 1 means there are a copy of logs coming out from these microservices. Right? Rather than you go and copy and paste and go and search for it, you can instantly click on this button, it brings you directly to the exact time frame and to the issue as well. The whole idea is the guided troubleshooting, right? We do not want you to be investigation, we want you to just click it through as well, right? Now, I think my time is up. I think that's all for the 8 points. And last but not least, happy 10-year anniversary Kubernetes.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Again, Michael is here. Anybody has any questions, reach out to him and his team. Right. We'll run another one. Vijay Prabhakar. Vijay. Nobody. Right. Manju. All right, Manju, congratulations. Young. Manju, what is the size? What's your t-shirt size?
Yeah, I want to remind everybody, remember, I told you guys earlier, if you guys win anything or you just want to help us to spread the words, please do so. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks. All right, I would like to call MK from Tyke.
Okay, hi everybody. My name's Mun Kiat, short for MK. I'm from Tyke. So for most of you, I think you see a lot of big brands here today. What you probably wouldn't have heard of is probably Tyke. So what we do as Tyke, we're actually an API management startup. We are quite well known for API gateway. So we're also, one thing just to shout out, we're also compatible with Open Telemetry, and we can integrate with Splunk. And one thing to really say about what Tyke does, right, is think of us like a bouncer for your APIs. We do a lot of like security, we do a lot of validation, we do a lot of transformation for your APIs. Now, the one thing that you might think about, why is a bouncer in a Kubernetes event over here? What relevance do we have, right? Actually, we do have a lot. Right, let me scroll here. Is that moving? Okay. So introductions, by way of introductions, that's us in Tyke Singapore. I cover the region. That's me with the microphone. That's me. Here's me with the microphone again. We're based in Singapore. We're headquartered in London, but we've been here for about 7 years. So younger than Kubernetes for sure, but we're definitely a startup that's growing aggressively. So back to that, what's an API gateway or API management solutions have to do with Kubernetes? The fact is, it's quite a lot, right? We do have our users adopting Kubernetes, a lot of them, in fact. If I were to bring you through some of our history, right? When we started in 2016, it's a fraction of users that's using Kubernetes, right? It's a small one, the green slice that you see over there. Over the next couple of years, right? 2018, 2019, we grew. It's about 10, 12%-ish of users. And Kubernetes is growing to become like a platform of choice for a lot of users. You can see by 2019 and 2020 timeframe, about, how do I say it? It's about 25% of users, and like 1 in 8 tickets are Kubernetes support tickets kind of coming from our users, right? They may not be API related, they may not be about how you secure APIs, but they are 1 in 8 are about Kubernetes, how do we deploy on Kubernetes and all that kind of stuff. We're happy to help them around that. And I'm really, really happy to share that as of today, right, since 2021 to 2024, the user base has grown again substantially. This is an aggregate worldwide. It's about 1/3 of users, 1 in 3 Tyke users are actually on Kubernetes, right? So it's amazing. In APAC, it's a little bit lagging. It's probably 1 in 6, 1 in 7-ish as a ratio. But around the world, Kubernetes is growing quite rapidly. The next thing to talk about, right, is the automation related queries by the years, right? We have a lot of queries about CI/CD, webhooks, CloudFormation, and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that we haven't really figured out back in 2019 was what's a Kubernetes operator model, right? What does that look like for us? We've answered all of these in the past couple of years, right? And if you search Tyke and the open source products that we've delivered, right? The gateway, we've done Ansible, we've done Helm charts. If you've done Kubernetes, you've definitely touched Helm charts, Terraform, Kubernetes demos, Argo CD, if you're into CI/CD stuff. We have open source tools like TypeSync. But one thing that we've not done in 2019 was Kubernetes operators, right? So in 2020, our head of cloud, right, and we have a cloud platform here in Singapore, he posted this on Slack. I can't lift the screenshot, but I said, what if we had a Kubernetes operator to run our SaaS, right? It's a really good way to reduce the amount of overheads. We have someone with the expertise, right? Someone with the expertise to run Tyke for our cloud platform users over there. And so just a quick rollback, right? What's an operator? An operator is a combination of a couple of things. The first one is the concept of controllers. I'm quite sure everybody here is familiar with concept of controller group. It brings the actual state to the desired state, what we call reconciliation, replica sets, deployments of that are examples of the controllers. The next thing to bring together is custom resources. So it's basically an extension of Kubernetes, right? And what we're able to do is we're able to script this or write these resources as an extension of Kubernetes, right? So when you manage these resources, it's akin to managing your Kubernetes objects. When you combine them both, you actually get an operator. It started in 2016, right? It's basically just a custom controller in Kubernetes watching over your custom resources. Essentially calling it like managing like a human operator, which is what we've strived for, right? Like humans, right? There's a skill level, there's a maturity level to operators. So think of robot taking your orders in McDonald's, or the person who's a cashier over there. So there's different skill levels to operators. Now that said, back 2020, in August 2020, so shortly after that, we've committed into our public repository the first alpha of operator over there. So in a very, very short time frame, we've actually rolled out the Type operator to operate your Type deployments. 5 reasons why we wrote it. First reason you probably know, right? It's to help run our cloud platform, our SaaS platform, so operations. Second, right, which is why Kubernetes has its 10th birthday, is the vision. We believe in the future where Kubernetes is the platform of choice for everybody, right? So whether you are a developer, platform engineer, SRE, Kubernetes is the platform of choice. Third one, our users, us will come anyway. We've tackled so many questions on automation. Operator will be next. Fourth one, from a product standpoint, introducing an operator introduces some level of product stickiness. So we rolled out our own for a product reason, encourages stickiness, prevents churn, amazing stuff for us. And lastly, for Type R&D, it's a good fun to do so. So the result, right, is now you can manage all your APIs in a Kubernetes native way. We can do security policies, APIs, even managing multiple API gateways. It's as simple as what you see over here. kubectl apply, bin.yaml. So I've got 2 minutes left, and how is it doing now? In 3 ways. We've actually went from alpha to beta to now GA, right? We went GA for quite a number of, I think, months, actually, if not more than a year already, right? We've got quite a lot of engagement around our operator. This is our screenshot from our community forums. And lastly, operator is doing really well as a form of, from a product perspective. We do have, so of the 1 in 3, right? A small fraction of them actually use operator in production itself. So it's very good. It's very useful for our users. For our operations team, it's very effective in running our cloud platform. If you are like from a product perspective, I think it's one of the things that you should think about writing your own. So essentially, it's goodbye to ClickOps, And what we've enabled all our users to be able to do, right, is to deploy all their APIs in a GitOps CI/CD automated fashion, right? So this is an example of a production environment of one of the users, Argo CD and everything in the work GitOps stage. But basically, with operator, a lot of them can manage their estate as Kubernetes CRDs. So just to wrap it up, what are we looking at next? Because Kubernetes is here to stay. We're looking at working towards the next Kubernetes gateway APIs. So keep an eye out for us. If you're interested, we can do a demo, but we'll do it outside. If you're interested to grab a copy of slides, I'll leave you the QR code over here. I think I am on time, and good luck for the next wheel winner.
Thank you, MK. Thanks a lot, and thanks to you all for waiting down. And we are on to our last lightning talk, and after that, we will be celebrating and cutting the cake. So don't go anywhere, wait. And with that, let us move on to Wheel of Fortune. Ton soon.
Double Excel. Excel. Okay, thank you. Congratulations.
Please do not confuse Spot by the Spot instances available in AWS. We will come on to that. We specialize in doing that. But having said that, there's a lot we do for Kubernetes and containers in general. Over the next 10 minutes, I know this is the last session of the day, so you all want to go home. So is me, because I'm 10 hours away from a vacation, a week-long vacation. So we'll be flying out, and yeah, we all want to get this done. Now, in these 10 minutes, what I want to give you back is solve 3 challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis. Think of your challenges, that the tasks that you have to do as a cloud architect or a DevOps engineer or as a developer that you hate doing. So what I'm going to give you back over the next 10 minutes is an ability to get rid of those tasks and also automate a lot of stuff to save costs and be the hero of your organization. That's what we are going to do over the next 10 years, over the next 10 minutes. How many cloud architects or DevOps engineers in this room? What? Anyone? Any cloud architects, DevOps engineers, container architects who move their applications from data centers to the cloud, any public cloud? Who started those projects? Remember, what was your goal? Why do you want to move the containers from their in-house data centers to the public cloud? Yes, the goals were that we will be able to roll out the application. We will be able to scale faster, scale down when not needed or weekends and out of business hours, give operational consistency, reliability, and lastly, reduce costs. Some of this happened, some did not. I meet more than 50 organizations every month, and I never heard anyone saying that my cloud costs are within my budget. Cloud costs are exceeding every day, and that's precisely what we are here to handle. Now, as you scale your applications in the cloud, you start facing some problems. First, biggest problem here is the costs. Costs will explode through the roof, and you end up exceeding your budgets. Second is the DevOps teams, architects, get overwhelmed with managing infrastructure. No one wants to manage infrastructure. Everyone wants to do top-of-line stuff, some interesting stuff.
build better pipelines, build better applications, and not manage EC2 instances and locally, not manage notebooks. And lastly, underutilization. Cloud will be a $20 billion enterprise spend in the next couple of years. And imagine 70% of that getting wasted just running. It's not just the cost wasted, it's also an environmental threat. And that's what we want to get rid of. Now, moving to the three challenges that I talked about. The challenge number one you face is no one wants to manage infrastructure anymore. You want to do quality stuff. And a recent report by an observability company showed that every organization, almost more than 50% of the organizations are exploring moving to completely serverless platform, but that comes at a cost. That comes at a cost which is 1.5 to 2.5 times of managing the infrastructure. What if I could offer a solution today that will give you the same benefit of not managing any infrastructure, but still at 78% cost, 70-80% lower cost. Second, the second challenge that we all face is that majority of the workloads are underutilizing resources. I don't know about your organizations, average data across industry says 30 to 50% utilization of EC2 workloads. Rest 50 to 60% is getting totally wasted, running out there but not being used. That's a huge saving that you can bring in. This is the recent data that 75% of the containers use less than half of the requested VCPUs. So I'm going to offer a solution in a bit which will help you get rid of all that wastage. And lastly, the challenge number three, that it costs a form to run Kubernetes workloads. When we are sizing the clusters, we always consider the cost of running Kubernetes control plane master servers, but actually 90% of the cost goes here in running the pods, the workload nodes, the notebooks and notebooks of containers. And everyone hates that. Now, introducing Spot Ocean. Spot as a company is out there to help you optimize your cost and automate a lot of manual stuff that you have to do today as a cloud operator or application. That's the goal of the company. We do multiple things in containers, in data world, also in auto-scaling applications, but this already in focus today, I'm going to talk about Kubernetes and how we help you do that. The first challenge we solve for you is by completely automating the challenge of manual infrastructure management. We give you that complete serverless experience so that you throw containers at Ocean platform and we run it at the most optimal cost without any manual intervention. You would not have to manage any notebooks. You would not have to worry about covering these notebooks with commitments, 1 year savings plan, 3 year savings plans, commitments, RIs. You do not have to worry about that. You do not have to worry about using spot instances at times. We take care of doing all that for you on the fly. While we do that, we also do automated bin packing for you. What that means is that if there are two servers running with 50% utilization, we can combine them into a bigger server with 80-90% utilization. And at the same time, you will follow all the ability rules, the age operations, and the availability rules that you will have to do. Lastly, we can help you schedule scale up and scale down. If your application needs to scale down every 6 p.m. after your developers are gone home, we can help you automate that, scale down your application, and we can scale it back up on Monday morning. We automate it all for you so that at the end of the day, you do not have to manage any infra and you're still not wasting any resources. Now, the challenge number two that we solve for you is the automation. Like I said before, 65% of containers running out there in enterprises are wasting resources. So what if there was a bouncer like there's a bouncer standing there who is able to rise and all those pods on the fly without changing the YAML definitions of the containers and right-size those pods. We use AI to figure out what's the average utilization of a pod.
was the highest utilization of a pod in the last 3 months, 6 months. And then accordingly, based on the rules you said, right size the pod in the runtime so that there's no wastage of resources out there. Lastly, we show you the cost of running each deployment, the cost of running each cluster, each namespace down to each deployment level. So that when you get questions from your CFO, your finance teams are saying why this application is costing me X number of dollars or Y number of dollars, you can justify that this is the namespace, so this is the deployment that is costing certain number of dollars. So all those answers on back of your hand. And lastly, you can build dashboards for various stakeholders to see where the money is going and how you can optimize that. Lastly, design number 3 is about continuous cost optimization. That's falling down to be a responsibility of a DevOps engineer or a cloud architect. Lately, because costs are shooting up and the DevOps engineers are expected to control the cost of the cloud. And we help you automate that and be that hero of the organization, because we are a product that we always create budget and not see budget analysis. We always help you save costs so that you can invest that in other solutions that we thought of today. How we do that is first by baselining your usage and covering that with commitments. On the fly, in an automated way, all the baseline of your usage is covered with commitments in advance, so that it's not costing the full on-demand price. Any scalability requirements from that baseline, when you need more servers, when your applications need to scale up, you need of spot instances. One obvious question in your mind would be why would we need someone else to buy spot instances from AWS? How we do that is be able to predict which spot instances are going to give you highest longevity and availability. And we make use of those spot instances so that you have least number of interruptions, you have least number of spot relimitations, and you run your pods longer on spot instances and save costs for use. So what we do also is make sure that if you have any unused RM in your environment, any unused instances which are committed for already, we make use of those first, then the spot instances, and then run your application in a way that it is always running at the lowest dollar per pod cost. Now, the 3 takeaways, I have just last 2 minutes to wrap up. 3 key takeaways that I want to focus on. The first one is that continuous cost optimization is possible only with automation, so that you can focus your time on doing higher-end activities and maybe spend some time on KodeKloud to learn new things instead of managing just the infra, boring infra work. Second thing is, of course, standardizes operations by eliminating any manual errors that you make while doing a lot of routine configurations like upgrades. And lastly, it gives you the visibility. A platform gives you the visibility into every dollar you spend, so that you can show back to your application owners, charge back, and bring a culture of accountability that following some best practices may actually save you a lot of costs. Now, for people who have not heard of this platform or tried before, simply go to spot.io. It takes you less than 2 minutes to create an account. Hook up your AWS or any other cloud provider's account with the platform. Few minutes is all it takes. Deploy your first cluster, and we let you run first 20 machines free of cost. So you can hook up your dev cluster to begin with, and then reach out to one of us. We have a group outside. Reach out to one of us, or the platform. Then you will need your production cluster platform. That's pretty much it that I want to go. We'll be right here for any questions or if you want to discuss this sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you very much for such a wonderful session. With this, we are at the end of today's session, and now, everybody, this is a time for the much awaited celebrating K8S Kubernetes 10th anniversary. Before that, as we promised, we have the last one more lucky winner. So who would be? Let's see. Fatima. So yeah, she's one of our organizers. So we'll move on to another one. You don't need it because we already have it. All right. You should take a video of that. So definitely we are going to move on from here. Bronzy Nandakumar.
Not me.
Oh, okay. Who is Bronzy Nandakumar? Oh, you. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yep. You're from my boss, so we can do F5. Yep, F5, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh.
Wazir.
Okay.
All right, so now I would request everyone to please come near the stage. Let's take a photo with the cake, a group photo, and then we will start with the celebration. All right. You can eat the cookies also. You can eat the cookies.